Welcome friends to yet another session from the paper Methodology of Teaching Natural Science. In this session, we are going to discuss the theory of multiple intelligences. Before proceeding to the theory of multiple intelligences, we will have a short discussion on intelligence itself and the evolution of various theories on it. Intelligence definitions. You might have heard many times people around you say, "She is a very intelligent girl," or "He is such an intelligent boy," like that. What do they mean by the term intelligent? How do you say when one is intelligent? Intelligence is what everyone covets, yet no one can exactly define what intelligence is. The concept is globally important and a very much researched one. Thinking, reasoning, memory, imagination, problem solving, etc. are the very basic cognitive abilities of a person. The effect of all these abilities when utilized by a person to adjust with a new situation is generally known as the intelligence of that person. Some experts are of the opinion that intelligence is nothing but problem solving skills. Some say intelligence is the ability to adapt and learn from the day-to-day experiences. David Wechsler, who constructed a number of most widely used intelligence tests, defined that intelligence is an aggregate global capacity of the individual to act purposefully, to think rationally, and to deal effectively with his environment. There are so many definitions of intelligence available, and according to Vernon, there are three groups of definitions: biological, psychological, and operational. Biological definitions explain intelligence as related to adaptation to the environment. See the definition of Sternberg. According to him, intelligence is the capacity for goal-directed adaptive behavior. Psychological definitions stress the measurement of intelligence to compare and differentiate individuals. For example, according to Ausubel and Robinson, intelligence refers to a general level of cognitive functioning as reflective in the ability to understand ideas and utilize abstract symbols in the solution of intellectual problems. Intelligence is operationally defined in terms of tests designed to measure it. Spearman defines intelligence as the analytic and synthetic ability of mind. Since there are a number of definitions like these for intelligence, we can say that the concept is multi-definable. Psychologists give different definitions because they approach the concept from different theoretical angles based on their theoretical orientations. For example, a follower of Vygotsky's theory framing a definition for intelligence will be including the ability to use the tools of the culture with the help of a more skilled one as the component of intelligence. When we say one is intelligent, actually we are talking about the expressions of behavior. Each theory of intelligence attempts to explain different aspects of these behaviors. It is not possible to observe intelligence directly, but its presence can be inferred from certain behavioral manifestations. In other words, we can only evaluate one's intelligence indirectly by studying his or her intelligence acts. The concept intelligence is then constructed hypothetically by the psychologists, which means that they define it as per their theoretical orientations and give some behavioral explanations. The totality of these behaviors is considered as intelligence. Theories on intelligence. As I said before, there are many theories on intelligence. A famous classification divides the theories into two: conventional or classical theories and modern theories. In the conventional classical theories side, we will examine the theories of Spearman, Thorndike, Thurston and Guilford very briefly, and from modern theories we will see the theories of Sternberg and Gardner. The first intelligence theory was put forward by Charles Edward Spearman in 1904 and is called two-factor theory. Spearman proposed the idea that intelligent behavior is generated by a single unitary quality or one metaphorical pool of mental energy within the human mind or brain. According to him, two factors constitute the structure of human intelligence: a general factor underlying all mental functions and specific factors related to a given task or situation. That is, the general ability represented by the small letter g is common to all intellectual tasks. The specific abilities are specific to a particular task and represented by small letter s. The common pool of mental ability is required to perform these specific abilities. The next is multi-factor theory by Edward L. Thorndike. Thorndike opposed the idea of a general factor and proposed that intellectual abilities are constituted by the organization of specified acts or separate factors as elements. He also proposed three broad classes of intellectual functioning. The first is abstract intelligence, which is the ability to deal with ideas and symbols. The second is mechanical intelligence, the ability to deal with mechanisms and tasks involving sensory motor abilities. And third, social intelligence, which is the ability to deal effectively with people. Next is group factor theory proposed by Louis Leon Thurston in 1938. Thurston hypothesized that 7 factors, which he called primary mental abilities, constitute intelligence. His research indicated that intelligence could be measured by sampling individual performance in 7 areas, and those are verbal comprehension, numerical ability, spatial ability, perceptual speed, associative memory, reasoning and word fluency. One of the most extensive theories which totally rejected the notion of a general intelligence factor was presented by J.P. Guilford in 1955, and he used the statistical technique of factor analysis to develop structure of intellect (SOI) model. According to Guilford, the human intellect was composed of a three-dimensional system of numerous intellectual abilities classified on the basis of the material or content processed, the processes or operations performed with the material, and the forms or products of the processed information. The model is represented as a cube with each of the 3 dimensions occupying one side. See the picture. Each ability is defined by a combination of the 3 categories occupying one cell in the 3-dimensional figure. That is, one content plus one operation gives a product. Or we can say that when the mental processes or operations act on any one of the contents, the outcome is the product. The first dimension of Guilford's model, content, has 5 subcategories including visual, auditory, symbolic, semantic and behavioral. The second dimension, operation, has 6 subcategories which includes cognition, associative and retentive memory, divergent production, convergent production and evaluation. And the third, product, has 6 subcategories including units, classes, relations, systems, transformation and implications. So, theoretically 180 mental abilities or factors, that is 5 into 6 into 6 equal to 180, can be generated from the model, since any operation can be performed on any content and can result in any product. Guilford's theory is an open system, which means that it allows for newly discovered categories to be added in any of the 3 directions. The model also suggests that new abilities may be discovered based on existing abilities. His theory implies that intelligence can be incredibly complex. No longer was intelligence a monolithic global trait considered inborn and absolute. Modern theories. In the last part of 20th century, psychologists started viewing human intellectual functioning as a multi-dimensional construct, directly opposing the views that intelligence is a single entity which is inherited and that human beings could be trained to learn anything if present in an appropriate way. The modern theorists are the opinion that there exist a multitude of intelligences quite independent of each other and that each intelligence has its own strengths and constraints. We will examine 2 theories here. Sternberg's triarchic theory. Robert J. Sternberg's theory is a cognitive process approach to understand intelligence. This theory nowadays is popularly known as successful intelligence theory. According to the theory, developed first in the year 1986, intelligence comes in 3 forms: analytical, creative and practical. Analytical intelligence involves the ability to analyze, judge, evaluate, compare and contrast. Creative intelligence, as the name suggests, consists of the ability to create, design, invent, originate and imagine. Practical intelligence is the ability to use, apply, implement and put into practice. Some people are equally high in all the three areas, others do well in one or two. Now we will discuss the theory of multiple intelligences by Dr. Howard Gardner in detail. Dr. Howard Gardner has established himself as one of the world's foremost authorities on the topics of intelligence, creativity, leadership and professional responsibility. He is the professor of cognition and education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, Harvard University. Rejecting the popular belief that intelligence is a general ability, Gardner put forth the idea of 7 distinct and independent aspects of human intelligence. Gardner defined intelligence as biopsychological potential to process information that can be activated in a cultural setting to solve problems or create products that are of value in a culture. This means that intelligence is the ability to solve problems and create products that are valued by a culture. Gardner suggested in his book Frames of Mind, Theory of Multiple Intelligences, first published in 1983, that there are many specific types of intelligences or frames of mind, and developed the view that intelligence comes in the form of 7 kinds of skills, which are linguistic or verbal, logical mathematical, bodily kinesthetic, spatial, musical, interpersonal and intrapersonal. Gardner stressed that there may be more kinds of intelligence. As an extension to the theory in 1999, in his book Intelligence Reframed, Multiple Intelligences for the 21st Century, Gardner concluded that there is ample evidence for a naturalist intelligence and suggestive evidence for a possible existential intelligence. He suggested one more form too, moral intelligence. Gardner also proposed 3 distinct uses of the term intelligence. According to him, intelligence is a property of all human beings. This means that all of us possess 8 or 9 intelligences. Second point is that intelligence is a dimension on which individuals differ. This means that no 2 people, not even identical twins, possess exactly the same profile of intelligences. Third, intelligence also is the way in which one carries out a task in virtue of one's goals. Gardner identified a set of criteria that define what is and what is not an intelligence. Those are potential isolation by brain damage. Intelligences that are separate cognitively are separate in the brain. This criterion has considerable evidence from neuropsychology that shows that a person can lose ability in one area as a result of a brain injury, but even then has abilities in other areas. This means that there are several intelligences, not just one. Second, intelligence can be observed in isolated forms. Consider exceptional individuals. Some people can calculate high digit numbers very fast. Some exhibit exceptional talents in music. Mentally retarded people are there. Savants are there who exhibit amazing abilities. All this shows that an individual may have extreme unevenness in abilities, and the fact raises another possibility of separate intelligences. Third point is that the intelligences have identifiable core operation or set of operations. The operations that enable the intelligence should be distinct from operations supporting other intelligences. Fourth one, a distinctive development history along with a definable set of end state performances. An intelligence has an identifiable set of stages of growth with a master level which exists as an end state in human development. This criterion determines that both normal and gifted individuals possess an intelligence with an identifiable developmental history. Society contains numerous examples of individuals who have reached this mastery level for each of Gardner's intelligences. Fifth one, an evolutionary history and evolutionary plausibility. There appears to be adequate evidence that the human species has developed intelligence over time via human experiences. Thus, each of the 10 intelligences can have its development traced through the evolution of Homo sapiens. Sixth one, support from experimental psychological tasks. Several tasks have been developed by the psychologists that specifically indicate which skills are related to one another and which are discrete. For example, handling long chains of reasoning typifies the logical mathematical intelligence, whereas one's linguistic intelligence can be clearly eliminated by a superior memory for words. Seventh one, support from psychometric findings. Gardner believes that the intelligences are in line with data from other branches of psychology. There are many standardized tests for measuring intelligence for the support of his theory. Eighth one, susceptibility to encoding in a symbol system. This criterion measures the ability of an intelligence to naturally gravitate towards embodiment in a symbolic system such as language, pictures or mathematics. Each form of intelligence must satisfy a range of these criteria and must include as a prerequisite the ability to resolve genuine problems or difficulties within certain cultural settings. Now we will examine each form of intelligence in detail. Details of forms of intelligences. Linguistic or verbal intelligence. It is the ability to use words effectively, both orally and in writing. This involves having a mastery of language. For example, take the case of a poet or a journalist. It also allows one to use language as a means to remember information. Logical mathematical intelligence. It is the capacity to analyze problems logically, carry out mathematical operations and investigate issues scientifically. This includes such components as the sensitivity to and capacity to discriminate logical or numeric patterns, ability to handle long chains of reasoning, etc. Mathematicians, logicians and scientists exploit this intelligence. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Characteristic of this form of intelligence is the ability to use one's body in a highly differentiated and skilled ways for expressive as well as goal-directed purposes. It also involves the capacities to work skillfully with objects, both that involve the fine motor movements of fingers and hands, for example of a surgeon or makers of crafts, and also that of gross motor movements of the body like that of a dancer or an athlete. Spatial intelligence. The ability to think three-dimensionally. This form of intelligence gives one the ability to manipulate and create visual images in order to solve problems. For example, an architect or an artist has the capacity to perceive the visual spatial world accurately. This intelligence is not limited to the visual domain. Gardner is of the opinion that blind people also have this form of intelligence. Musical intelligence. This denotes a sensitivity to pitch, melody, rhythm and tone. Auditory functions are required for a person to develop this intelligence in relation to pitch and tone, but it is not needed for the knowledge of rhythm. Think of Beethoven, the famous music composer and pianist who, even after losing hearing at the age of 26, managed to produce many music compositions. Interpersonal intelligence. It is the ability to understand others and effectively interact with them. The core component being the capacity to distinguish and respond appropriately to the moods, temperaments, motivations and desires of other people. Consider a successful teacher or a salesperson or a counselor. They know how to deal with very different types of people effectively. Intrapersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence involves a similar set of abilities as that of interpersonal, but these are turned toward the self. It denotes the ability to understand oneself and effectively direct one's life. Individuals who have high intrapersonal intelligence have an accurate self-understanding. Naturalist intelligence, the ability to observe patterns in nature and understand natural as well as human-made systems. According to Gardner, individuals who have high in this type of intelligence are more in tune with nature and are often interested in nurturing, exploring the environment and learning about other species. You, being the natural science students, must have chosen the subject because you are high in this intelligence. Existential intelligence. Gardner described existential intelligence as the most unambiguous cognitive strand of the physical. According to Gardner, the individuals who exhibit the proclivity or liking to pose and ponder questions about life, death and ultimate realities has this form of intelligence. That is, the individuals who excel in this intelligence typically are able to see the big picture. Philosophers, theologians and life coaches are among those that Gardner sees as having high existential intelligence. Moral intelligence. Gardner opined that people with strength in moral intelligence will display ready recognition of issues related to the sanctity of life in its diverse facets, facility in mastering traditional symbolic renderings and codifications that deals with sacred issues, enduring commitment to reflecting on such issues, potential for going beyond conventional approaches to create new forms or processes that regulate the sacrosanct facets of human interactions. The existence of a moral intelligence rests on the existence of an identifiable moral domain. Gardner pointed out that individuals could develop strength in the moral domain only in a culture where such issues are prominent. You might be thinking now that the intelligences mentioned are separated from each other, but Gardner claims that these intelligences very rarely operate independently. Rather, the intelligences are used concurrently and typically complement each other as individuals develop skills or solve problems. For example, a dancer can excel in his or her art only if he or she has strong musical intelligence to understand the rhythm and variations of the music, interpersonal intelligence to understand how he or she can inspire or emotionally move the audience through the movements, as well as bodily kinesthetic intelligence to provide the individual with the agility and coordination to complete the movement successfully. Howard Gardner summarized the educational implications of MI theory in this way. In his own words, an educator should individualize and pluralize. By individualizing, Gardner meant that the educator should know as much as possible about the intelligent profile of each student, and to the extent possible, an educator should teach and assess in ways that brings out that child's capabilities. By pluralizing, Gardner meant that an educator should decide on which topics, concepts or ideas are of great importance and should present them in a variety of ways. By pluralizing, the teachers achieve two main goals. When a topic is taught in different ways, the teacher can reach more students. Also, the different ways of delivering a topic conveys what it means to understand something well. When we understand something thoroughly, we can think about it in several ways, thereby making use of our multiple intelligences. Now let us summarize the points we have discussed so far. There are many theories on intelligence and accordingly many definitions. We can say that the term intelligence is a hypothetical construct. Among the many classifications on theories of intelligence, the classification which divides the theories into conventional or classical theories and modern theories was presented here. We have seen four theories from the classical viewpoint. From the modern view, the theory of Sternberg was presented briefly and the theory of multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner was presented in detail. Assignments. 1. Prepare a concept map showing the evolution of various theories on intelligence. The second one, find out the negative and positive applications of Howard Gardner's theory in the classroom. Third one, find out the components of Gardner's each form of intelligence. Fourth, write about the strategies that teachers can use in the classroom that are related to Gardner's types of intelligences. Reference. For understanding the theory of multiple intelligences, the best book for reference is Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences by Howard Gardner, in which he had first presented the idea, published in 1983 by Basic Books, New York. For an understanding about the extension of the theory by which Gardner has added more intelligences, you can read Intelligence Reframed, Multiple Intelligences for the 21st Century, published by Basic Books, New York in 1999. For strategies that teachers can use that are related to Gardner's theory, you can refer the book Educational Psychology Classroom Update, Preparing for Praxis and Practice, written by John W. Sandrock in 2001, published by Tata McGraw-Hill in India. Another book for a good understanding on intelligence, you can refer Instructional Learning Strategies and Cognitive Entry Behavior, an Experimental Analysis, written by P.K. Sudesh Kumar and C.M. Bindu, published by Kanishka Publishers Distributors, New Delhi in 2002. A paper titled Multiple Intelligences After 20 Years, presented by Howard Gardner at the American Educational Research Association, Chicago, Illinois, April 21, 2003, makes an interesting reading. It is available in the internet. A very useful site for understanding the evolution of intelligence theories is www.inteltheory.com. Thank you for watching the program. We will meet another time with another topic. Till then, bye.